What's going on, Spurs fans? Welcome to an end of the year season report card for the San Antonio Spurs for their 2024-2025 season. We're going to get into 5 categories that I think the Spurs should be graded on for this past year. So make sure to hit that like and subscribe and stay tuned for the video. All right, guys, so getting right into it, this will be a report card review of the Spurs 2024-2025 season in 5 categories, which are here, and you can see their grades as I have them. I'm going to go into more detail as we move along. So player talent, coaching, team chemistry on and off the court, future, and team support. And I hope these are synced up with the ones that I edited. So we're going to get right into the first one, player talent. So the good, young and hungry players with elite talent, meaning Wemby, Fox, and Castle. Not necessarily a big three because Fox and Castle are both guards. In my opinion, a big, just usually a small forward center and maybe a point guard for a big three. But nonetheless, we have elite talent. So Wemby, the future of the franchise, obviously, but great compliments in Castle, and what we were able to give up for Fox was minimal, so great addition. Leadership in CP3 and HB Harrison Barnes, so I hope that Chris Paul and HB are also able to join us next year. I think they're very, very valuable for the team, both in terms of talent and leadership. And of course, cutting the inevitable, Zach Collins, Trey Jones, and City Sissoko. Hard to see any Spur go, but just weird roles for them in the lineup. The bad for player talent is if you look at our categories, we just don't really stand out in any real areas.
Okay.
So we can kind of tie this into team chemistry as well, but just not very good. I mean, I guess pace, we're 12th out of 30, so we do play, with more pace than we used to, I believe. And then, of course, KJ and Dev, just their inconsistency throughout the year. Personally, I believe we need to try and find some things that we can get back for both of those players. As with the Collins, Trey, and City, I don't think KJ and Dev have a great role with the team moving forward. And then, of course, Champagnie, Wesley, Branham roles diminished with just moves and trying to get more playing time for the bigger names. To be completely honest, the one that hurt a lot was Champagnie because he was in a groove when he was in the starting lineup. So and Blake Wesley as well was getting a lot of playing time, and that just diminished. But there's only so many spots on the court. So going overall, we're gonna give player talent a B. Good setup for the future, but also we need to continue to make some moves, in my opinion, through the draft and through trades. Next up, coaching. Oh man, this one was tough, especially with all the things going on with Coach Pop. So we're gonna start off with the bad in that in that area. So of course, not having Pop, whatever your opinion may be on him in terms of his coaching and whatnot, he does have experience with players and just winning games and whatnot. So it's gonna hurt whether you agree with whether he should be the coach or not. He's a good coach, so if he's not there, you're gonna feel it. And then of course the inexperience showed in game. It was better this year, but there were still end game situations, inbound situations, just game management situations that were not very good, and then just momentum situations too. Like sometimes I saw them let up and everything, and that's we're human, right? But I think you just need to find ways to motivate even in the tough times. And then of course uncertainty. We just don't really know what the situation is for our coaching spot with Pop's health and with Mitch being relatively new and in my opinion a little bit underperforming. But with that being said, he did what he could in the good. With given the circumstances, I'm sure he did not expect everything to go the way it did, and just to be thrown in the fire. I do believe that Mitch can be the coach of the future, but there's just a lot of questions about this past season. But we also have a good coaching market to choose from, so we don't have to make any drastic moves right away. We can kind of think about what's going on with the Denver Nuggets coach and the Memphis Grizzlies coach, both on the market. In my opinion, those are 2 moves, and we'll just see what continues to happen. But more so maybe Mike Malone. I'm not really too sure about Tyler Taylor. I'm not sure. But I do think Mitch could be a good one. And of course, CP being a true player's coach, it's always good to have that. I know Tim said that guys like Mario Ellie, David Robinson, Sean Elliott, Avery Johnson, those were his vets who were able to help him kind of see the game a little bit differently pretty early on. So we need people like that. So coaching overall is a C. Just a tough season overall in the coaching aspect, but hoping for it to be more solidified next year. Team chemistry, so on and off court, I gave it a B minus for on the court and A for off the court. The good is that everybody seemed to have a pretty positive attitude all year. I know there was even some situations where Keldon was going through some hard times. It looked like, and he came through. Keldon's just so proud to be a Spur, and that's just what you need from your players, of course, regardless of what the play may be. The team motivation and energy seemed high, so regardless of the record, it seemed like we were playing competitive ball for the most part. There was a couple games there at the end of the year, a few actually, that were pretty lopsided, but when we could hang in there, we were definitely giving opponents a run for their money. Um, if you remember 2 years ago, we kind of spoiled Denver before they went to the playoffs and messed with their seeding. We didn't have that opportunity this past year, but it's always kind of interesting how that plays out. We're eighth in turnovers, so that's good because that means we're protecting the ball more. I'm sure CP being on the team had a lot to do with that, and Stefan too, and just players that are a lot safer with the ball. So that's good that we're going more in that direction. The bad, just overall inconsistent play all year. I mean, there'd even be games, one game alone, where it was just very good play, and then kind of horrible play. So really needing to be more consistent. Body language at times. I know I mentioned that the energy was high and everything, but it looked like specifically after long road trips, there was some body language in games that was frustrating. So, but we're human. I totally get it. Nothing too serious. And with the increased travel time, I know the Spurs, especially Wemby having come off the Olympics and them going to France and just having a lot more travel within the season. Getting stuck in LA for a while, whenever you guys remember that. So, B minus in terms of on the court because it was a pretty tough season and there was some good basketball, but some tough basketball at times. But off the court, I think everybody gets along well, and there's just a good group of guys that like to play with each other. So that's going to get an A. And then lastly, the future. So we're going to go an A minus with the future. I think I put an A in the previous edit, but the good is that there's decent odds for a high draft pick. I believe 26% chance of getting a top 4, 6% chance of getting the number 1 pick, which, hey, that's not horrible. I think 14% is the most you can have, so pretty good. Plenty of draft capital to sign or trade higher, so if we're looking to get elite talent or to move higher in the draft, we have an opportunity with everything that we have, probably upwards of 20 picks in the future, maybe even more than that, to be honest. And then a young team with good leaders. We do have good talent. We do have a young team overall, and we have good leadership with that. So we're still on the pathway of moving up. So that's good. The bad is that there's never a guarantee. The injuries that injury really that Wemby sustained is, you just never know, and we hope the best, obviously, and I'm sure they're handling it the best way possible, but it's just scary, And then, of course, anybody else, you never know what can happen. So, but that goes for the whole NBA, really, so that's pretty fair. And then teams gaining experience. I think that's a really underrated aspect because you look at OKC, they just swept Memphis. You look at Houston, they just, teams are gaining on us in terms of experience. So, and that matters, I believe, whenever it comes down to being in the playoffs and whatnot. So hopefully the chat GPT had us winning in the next couple of years. If you didn't see my video, go back and watch that. It's pretty interesting. But again, guys, just wanted to make this video. Do we have any more left? Oh, team support. Sorry. So last one, the good, and this is going to get an A because, of course, we're Spurs fans. We love our Spurs. The good is that Project Marvel, if it's done strategically, man, that's going to be pretty awesome for just not only the Spurs, but San Antonio in general, for it to be, kind of a staple of the United States where people are going to want to visit even more so. Murals and community involvement. I mean, you look at any player that comes onto the team, and it's kind of ridiculous how quickly they get a mural. But you also look around the city, and the Spurs do just so much for the community. I mean, you go down the list of things that they do, whether it be camps or renovations and stuff like that. That's just a few things that they do. So just donations, just so awesome, and that creates forever loyal fans. Being a Spurs fan since as early as I can remember, and then of course being in San Antonio, there is that standard of excellence. So I'm not going to touch on that too much, but if you live in San Antonio, and then the bad is there's always relocation talks, which will never change. And then I don't know if you guys can see that, but just if Project Marvel goes through, what impact could that have on residents? Because that never feels good to have that fall onto the tax-paying citizens. But anyway, let's just leave that for another day. Make sure to hit that like and subscribe, guys. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. And as always, it is the off season, so the content may be different, and I apologize for the sparing content, but we're gonna get as much out as we can as possible and just talk all things Spurs. So as always, go Spurs go. Talk to you guys later.